program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokats. Welcome. It is Thursday, January 12th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome to Rolla J Studios here in beautiful Potland, Oregon, where we bring you the best of news, headlines, music, interviews, and more. All sorts of great stuff on today's show coming up, but we got to start with our introductions. Of course, sitting over here to my right in the co-host spot, we have got the wonderful Wiz Kaliko. How you doing, Wiz?
Hey, doing quite well. Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you here. And you're back in school?
I am back in school on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will try to be here as often as I possibly can.
Oh, that's so cool. Also joining us from the virtual studio in beautiful Grass Story, Oregon, is the lovely Cannabis Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hello. I'm going to try to be here Monday through Friday if I can.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. We appreciate that. Cannabis Carrie is our senior news editor in beautiful Grass Story, Oregon, and brings us our hemp headlines after the first break. So what do we have in the news today?
I surely do. Today, we're going to go over some workers' compensation claim. I think this is very important for everyone in the cannabis community to hear these kind of stories. Also, we're going to look at a second initiative in a state that's pushing for legalization for all adults. We're going to look at a bill that would ask legislators to also pee in a cup. And then we're going to go to Colorado, where there's some breaking news about a few dispensaries that are out of compliance.
All right, we'll get to that. That's also on our NORML front page. Some breaking news about the Obama administration's federal crackdown spreading now to Colorado. It's very sad, and we'll talk about that in the news today. Also, it's Groovin' Thursday, and I'm going to bring you a new Groovin' Thursday tune from Lost Souls. It's called Who Got the Weed? So that's something I think we can all identify with. And then it's a second Thursday of the month. And on the second and fourth Thursdays, we say, cops say legalize drugs. We joined with LEAP speakers. And today we'll be meeting with Jamie Haase. He's a LEAP speaker that I met in Atlanta, Georgia a couple months ago. And he's a retired Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol officer who's got firsthand experience and knowledge of the Mexican drug war going on. So we'll get the best of his information and wisdom on that subject. And then I've got a little time for a couple of things. We've got a clip from The View today. Heather Donahue, who was in Blair Witch Project, and she was on A Different View, our show, on Monday. She was on The View on ABC with Whoopi and Joy and Elizabeth and the rest. And she was talking about her new book, Grow Girl, how she went from being in the Blair Witch Project to growing medical marijuana. Also, time for a radical rant. I got to tell you, folks, pot ain't hash and hash ain't pot, at least as far as the laws of 28 states are concerned. Stay tuned. We got all that and more coming up.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Weedmaps.com. I'm Radical Russ from NORML. In my job as outreach coordinator, I travel every month, and when I'm on the road, I need a fast, accurate way to find the medical marijuana dispensaries in the area. So I turn to Weedmaps.com. Weedmaps.com has the best dispensary locator online or on your mobile device. Search by zip code or let Weedmaps find you, and in seconds you'll have the addresses, phone numbers, and customer service reviews for the medical marijuana dispensaries in the local area. Weedmaps.com also has a section devoted to helping you find a doctor who understands and recommends medical marijuana under your state's law. You can even check prices on the Medical Marijuana Stock Exchange. Coming soon, you'll even be able to find the listings of NORML attorneys and chapters, local head shops and grow shops, and the best weed-friendly businesses. Weedmaps.com has the information you need to be an informed cannabis consumer. Visit weedmaps.com today, a proud sponsor of the NORML Network.
Inhaling deeply of the sacred smoke.
Hey, this is Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger Seeds, TGAgenetics.com, and you're listening to the NORML Network.
Hi, I'm Radical Russ. One of the best things about marijuana is the wonderful aroma. But when you travel a lot like I do, that aroma becomes a suspicious smell. That's why I endorse stealth-products.com, the leaders in smell-proof containers. From smell-proof vacuum bags to smell-proof backpacks and duffel bags, all the way to smell-proof digital safes, stealth-products.com has you covered. Stealth-products.com brings you safe, secure, odorless layers of protection with activated carbon fiber. Backpacks and duffel bags are simple black so as not to attract attention with a logo or a flashy design. Now, nothing is perfectly odor controlled from the detection of drug dogs, but with proper vigilance, containers from stealth-products.com will help you avoid nosy humans.
You're now listening to Elliot Beats.
Stealth-products.com. Stealth-products.com.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
An Arkansas Court of Appeals decided to deny a workers' compensation award to an employee because they say his marijuana use contributed to the explosion that burned him. Greg Prock was working for Bulls Shoals Landing Marina when he and a coworker were asked to remove the tops of 2 empty oil barrels. Greg Prock had been told on previous occasions to use an air chisel to open air barrels to avoid creating sparks that could ignite the oil, according to the marina's co-owner. Now, in this case, Mr. Prock used an acetylene torch to take the barrel top off, something that he routinely did, according to coworkers, without instance. But this time, a spark ignited the oil in the barrel, creating a fireball that set both men on fire. The men were drug tested after the accident. That's something that is routine in most workplace accidents all over the nation. Both men tested positive for marijuana. One of the marina's owners testified in court that Mr. Prock exhibited what he called suspicious behavior the morning of the accident, although other coworkers said they saw no such behavior. Mr. Prock testified in court that he did smoke marijuana 3 or 4 times a week after work, but never before. He also testified in court that he had not had any marijuana a full 2 weeks before the accident happened because he was trying to pass a drug test for a potential new employer. An administrative law judge ruled that the accident was caused by Mr. Prock attempting to finish a task quickly and ruled that he was credible when he said he didn't smoke marijuana that morning. But the Arkansas Workers' Compensation Commission reversed that ruling, saying that Mr. Prock's credibility was in question because there were other inconsistencies in his testimony, as well as testimony about his behavior that morning from his boss. That was also, and his coworker that was also burned in the accident. Yesterday, an appellate court upheld that Workers' Compensation Commission decision, adding that Arkansas law presumes that illegal substances cause a workplace accident when evidence of the drug use is found. They said that the burden of proof was not upon the employer in this situation to prove that Prock was impaired prior to the explosion that resulted in his injuries, but rather the burden is on the employee to prove that it wasn't caused by the drug use when drug use is found evident. One of the out of the 9 judges on the appellate court, 3 of them disagreed with the opinion, and one of those judges said that since he had used the torch in the past to open barrels, that proved his use of marijuana may not have directly caused the accident. Judge Raymond Abramson also noted that Mr. Prock's method of opening barrels that way was dangerous, but said that there was no direct causal link between drug use and the explosion, and that Mr. Prock should be awarded his full benefits. But as it stands now, he will get nothing.
This is such a shame because once again, we see how this institutional discrimination against cannabis consumers takes us down. The law presumes that if you're found to have marijuana metabolites in your urine from prior use that could have been a week ago, even in some cases, It presumes the accident was your fault, that the drugs caused the accident, when you and I and everyone in the room knows there is absolutely no way metabolites show that you're impaired in any way, either physically or mentally. This is such an abomination of what our civil rights are supposed to be about. It's an institutionalized discrimination. If this were being done, if workman comp claims were being tossed because of evidence of someone was gay or someone was Jewish or someone had joined the Black Panther Party in the 60s or was a member of the NRA, people would be up in arms about this. But because it's marijuana, it's a Schedule I drug, it's just a bunch of dirty doper hippies, the general public doesn't understand how rights are being taken away from the people in a systematic way. And this is part of a whole bigger picture, people. This is part of keeping control over labor, keeping control over the workers, to make sure that they don't organize, to make sure that we don't start questioning the status quo, we don't start questioning what management is doing. If they can keep us scared of losing our jobs, scared that there's not enough jobs out there, scared that if we speak up for marijuana law reform, we speak up for our rights, that we'll be discriminated against, that we'll lose our jobs, we'll lose our houses, we lose our kids. It makes it all that much harder to question the status quo, and we will not stand for it anymore. It's time for us to continue to fight for our rights and to end these discriminatory practices that are enshrined in law in places like Arkansas.
Now, we have been reporting for the last few years about different politicians from Florida to Washington who have proposed drug testing citizens who were applying for welfare benefits, from housing subsidies to food stamps, and even in my home state of Oregon, domestic violence victims. But last month, a Democratic state representative from Georgia introduced a bill that would require the local legislature to pee in a cup as well. He said he was struck by the number of bills in 2011 to require welfare applicants to submit to drug testing. He is not for drug testing, but Representative Scott Holcomb introduced the bill to bring some attention to it. He said he was struck by just how awful it was that some of his Republican colleagues were targeting welfare recipients and applicants for drug testing. Representative Holcomb isn't the first person to introduce a bill to protect citizens against legislating under the influence, but he is the latest. He said he thought of writing the bill when he was watching a constituent who was annoyed with the Republican welfare testing bill ask a reporter, "How do we know they aren't on drugs?" He said, "Well, we don't." So far, just Florida is the only place where the state government got a welfare drug test bill to pass, but thankfully it was ruled a violation of the state's constitutional ban against unreasonable search and seizures just 4 months after it passed. In the 4 months that Florida did drug test welfare recipients, only 2.5% tested positive for an illicit substance. Florida Governor Rick Scott, who pushed that drug testing bill on his state, said that he absolutely would be willing to submit to testing. In December, before Representative Holcomb introduced his drug testing bill for the Georgia legislature, a bill by his fellow Georgian politician, Representative Jack Kingston, introduced to Congress a bill that would ask all the states to drug test applicants before awarding unemployment benefits. That bill was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives, but thankfully failed in the Senate.
The reaction of people to these drug testing regimes just always surprises me, that, oh, it's wrong that they're drug testing us, that they're causing us to get drug tests for unemployment, so let's make them drug test as well. Oh, it's wrong that that guy is beating up that guy over there, so let's make sure everybody gets a beating. How about we just stop the drug testing altogether? We all know that it's not proving anything. It's not showing anybody to be impaired. In fact, drug testing, by the fact that drug testing so overwhelmingly picks up marijuana compared to how it picks up meth or cocaine or any of these other drugs, it leads people toward those other drugs. It gives them a choice. Well, if I'm going to have a little fun here, I certainly don't want to do any pot and get popped for it 3 or 4 days from now on the test, so maybe a line of coke will be what I'll do. It also causes the rise of things like this synthetic K2 spice stuff that hasn't been showing up on tests, although they are coming up with tests for them now, where it's become an epidemic in the military and in other places where all they're trying to do is get away with it. And if we would just let them use the cannabis in the first place, we could end and eliminate the K2 spice. We could bring people a gateway away from harder drugs, as so many addicts have told me many times, that marijuana helps them get off of cocaine, get off of heroin, get off of meth. We need to do the sensible thing here, and you can be a part of it. Reach out to your friends, your family, reach out to your legislators, and let them know that enough is enough. Prohibition does not work, cannot work, will never work, and it's causing much more harm than people being allowed to smoke marijuana ever could.
And last week, we told you about a Colorado legalization effort that was headed for the November ballot. Well, this week, a second group of cannabis activists have announced that they are close to finalizing their initiative's language and will submit it to the Secretary of State of Colorado in the next few business days. They are now organizing for a petition and signature drive for their initiative starting in February. Now, the activists behind both initiatives and the larger question of legalization are similar for both groups, but where they differ is the details. The Like Alcohol group, who put their signatures in last week, is seeking a well-regulated industry for cannabis. Now, the Legalized 2012 group fears over-regulation of a legal cannabis industry. In the Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol initiative, the Legalized 2012 group points out that you can possess as much alcohol as you want without committing a crime. The initiative to regulate marijuana like alcohol would make possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana legal for adults. Anything over that would constitute a criminal penalty. The Legalized 2012 group says that it is none of the state's concern how much marijuana any one person has. The Legalized 2012 initiative would still limit legal marijuana possession to adults. They have a large task in front of them without any major without any major money backers. The group is counting on a strong grassroots movement to collect at least 100,000 signatures in February, something the group says that they are confident they can produce. You need about 80,000 signatures to get on the ballot. The Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol turned in 160,000 signatures last week, twice as many as they needed, ensuring themselves a spot. Although we are still waiting for the Secretary of State to confirm that at least 80,000 of those are valid. We will undoubtedly be reporting to you on the efforts of both of these groups this year as they count down towards the November election.
Well, interesting situation here. Again, it's that situation where you have people that know the truth about cannabis and are well-meaning. It's like, we know how safe cannabis is. We know that it should be treated much less restrictively than alcohol should. But then there's political realities. Can we get 50% plus 1 voter to vote for the idea of going from cannabis being absolutely illegal, nobody can have any of it except in medical situations, to, all right, it's completely legal, anybody can have as much as they want? Hey, if you can get the signatures for it and you can get 50% plus 1 of the voters to support it, that'd be great. I'd love to see that. But I really think that first initiative is probably the one with the mainstream support and the one that has the best chance of passing. Now, in a lot of these situations, if both pass, I think it goes down to whichever one is the most free of the two is what takes place. So let's see what happens. We'll keep you posted.
And a second story that's breaking out of Colorado today. Federal prosecutors announced that they will go after medical marijuana dispensaries that are within 1,000 feet of a school. The U.S. Attorney's Office has identified 23 different Colorado dispensaries that violate the 1,000-foot rule, and all 23 received a threatening letter. The letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office said the dispensaries had only 45 days to close, or they would face criminal prosecution, along with having their assets seized under drug forfeiture laws. Letters were also sent to the property owners where the dispensaries are located, a tactic that has been very effective in the closure of many Californian dispensaries. Colorado U.S. Attorney John Walsh said that the Colorado law specifies the 1,000-foot rule, but says that small local governments can shrink that distance if they want to. So far, none have. The 1,000-foot buffer zone is significant because it also triggers stiffer federal penalties for drug crimes. The federal prosecutors aren't stopping with the 23 identified dispensaries that aren't in compliance with the 1,000-foot rule. They say they are looking for other dispensaries not in state law compliance of that 1,000-foot rule. U.S. Attorney spokesperson Jeff Dorsher said that he would not name the dispensaries that received the letter because the matter is part of an ongoing investigation. Dorsher also said that their interest is first to have the marijuana dispensaries move away from schools to protect children. He would not say what the feds were planning for the dispensaries that did not comply within the 45 days, and he answered that it would be handled in a case-by-case basis. The U.S. Justice Department has previously said it would not target people operating in compliance with the state medical marijuana law, but recently it clarified that policy over the summer to state that that exemption doesn't quite apply to dispensaries and their owners.
Yeah, this 1,000 feet of a school. You know, when I was going to high school in Nampa, Idaho, right across the street from the high school was this store that sold drugs. I mean, very addictive, toxic drugs. And every time I would go there, I mean, literally within, 50, 60 feet of the school, I would go in there, and in the parking lot, there'd be these kids mainlining these drugs that they bought right out of this market. And it was just so embarrassing. Of course, the drugs were tobacco and alcohol. So, I mean, I guess that's okay that those were within 1,000 feet of the school. But by God, we can't have people getting their medical marijuana within 1,000 feet of the school. I mean, we wouldn't want to think that we're promoting drugs or anything. But the tobacco and the alcohol, though, at the convenience store, that's just fine. This is ridiculous, and once again shows the Obama administration was lying through its teeth when it said it would respect the states that were operating under state law and following it. Colorado actually licenses these places. What's Obama's business getting involved? I don't know about it, but you know what? I think it's time to take a break. We've got Brian hanging out with us, too. You ready for a break, Brian? He is, I can tell. We'll be right back after this.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would send you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Yeah. Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And if you're one of the 26 million Americans who smoked marijuana last year, you need to get involved in the drive to legalize marijuana. We need your help to stop the senseless arrest of more than 800,000 Americans each year on marijuana charges. Together, we can end marijuana prohibition and stop the arrests of marijuana smokers. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Groovin' Thursday. Our salute to all the dopest beats and killer rhymes that we find in the best of rap, hip-hop, soul, R&B, and funk. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, folks, we're going to go back to the IOTA promo net and get you some new music. Well, not that new. I think this album came out in 2007, but it's new to me. Music from a group called Lost Souls, and I found this one because of its provocative title, Who Got the Weed? And I think today it's Kaliko and it's Brian that got the weed in this case, right?
I got a little bit. Got some Chem
Got a little bit of weed. All right. So we'll enjoy some weed. I hope you do too. And if you don't have any, I wish we could. I wish Scotty would get done with the transporter so we could just beam you some. We could beam it over to you. But until then, just enjoy it from our perspective here. Relax, have a little fun.
We don't have enough power, Captain.
Thanks, Scotty. Lost Souls, Who Got the Weed? Get your download at stash.norml.org.
Still making money, platinum plus, so you can't fuck with this. Have you heard of hellhole murderer? On that strip for Hardwell where that green cell. Who got that weed? I do, but shit, y'all hoes can't smoke it, fine and everything. But I got to have my dope. Damn, match one. Y'all hoes ain't smoking breathing. You give me a little of that ass, girl. I call it even. Smoke that, no stop. I told ya, a nigga like me be on that doja. Oh yeah, before you hold the can't smoke us. Rolling 1.5, he's around us and them Joes got that weed. I do, that fire ass fool in the kind that run right through your inducer and be like booyah. Who got that weed? I do, that fire ass fool in the kind that run right through your inducer and be like booyah. I remember smoking weed straight through the face mask. I started choking cause they was had to smoke my ass. Yo, it was me, Clark and Jared in the back of the car. We about to take a little trip, see ain't no telling how far. Cause it depended on what type of weed we received. We even went to Mars when it was with hell with no seeds. And I proceed to tell you about the fat brown paper sack of the jolly spot where they kept the fire weed at. A lot of hoes wanted to smoke with me and J-Rock to please their senses, but they didn't want to please a cop. But Well, hell no, that don't go. I had to let them know. If you ain't fucking good, your ass got to hit the dough. No disrespect to my true black queen, but I got drama with my mama when it comes to my city. Who got that weed? I do. That fire ass cooler, the kind that run right through your intrusion and be like, booyah. Who got that weed? I do. That fire ass cooler, the kind that run right through your intrusion and be like, booyah. Won't you smoke one, nigga? Won't you smoke one, nigga? And won't you smoke one, nigga? Oh, smoke one, nigga. Come on and smoke one, nigga. I said smoke one, nigga. Fired up. Fired up. What? Mr. Shady? Got 20 on the set who wanna go in with me. Gotta be some of that fire shit, some of that green stick ass. Hoes wanna get with me, cause they know. Say they got the endo, rolled in the L Pro. Mr. P.O. the I.C.E. Got me rolling down my window, slanging my weed, hanging with my G. Every smoker that don't mind, spending their last time on the sack of their vine. Pass the time, ask me, rhyme, whole anytime. Never got the air green, fuck that Bobby Brown. Choked out eye, make it hard for me to focus. Put it in my shit, potent, I'ma smoke it to the road. Up under a shade tree, getting my teeth on. I think this shit been going on since a million years old. I remember the time when one blood used to be enough. But now me and my nigga, who got that weed? I do. That fire ass cooler, the kind that run right through you and be like, booyah. Who got that weed? I do. That fire ass cooler, the kind that run right through you and be like, booyah. Who got that weed? I do. That fire ass cooler, the kind that run right through you and be like, booyah. Who got that weed? I do. That fire ass cooler, the kind that run right through you and be like, booyah. All my niggas in that hell hole. Hollywood, Horn home, Capitol home, Ferry home, Bankhead, Timptown, Hollywood. All my niggas from the ATL to the Big Bama. Smoke one, nigga. Smoke one.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
Most of us pirates, we go on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argusville. Arr, har, har, har. What are you smoking there, boy?
Do you want to legalize it? Call your congressman today. 202-224-3121. It's free, it's easy, and you don't even have to give your name, just your zip code, and they'll hook you up to your congressman. Call 202-224-3121 and tell Congress you support marijuana legalization.
Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind. That's what you got to do. Liberate your mind.
One of the most disturbing elements of the war on marijuana is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows firsthand the futility of the drug war and reaches out to the community and to current law enforcement to end our war on drugs through legalization. It's time now to speak to one such officer in our continuing look at law enforcement against prohibition.
You know, I think LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, is one of the most important activist groups out there working for an end to not just marijuana prohibition, but prohibition of all drugs. And why they carry such weight is because, of course, they speak from experience. They've been there. They've been on the front lines. I went out to Atlanta, Georgia last November for their Capitol Cannabis Revival. And while I was there, I got to meet a man in the crowd who was watching and had seen me speak. And we got to speaking working for a while with each other, and he turned out to be a former Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, a Border Patrol officer, and turns out he went ahead and joined law enforcement against prohibition. So joining us now is Jamie Haase, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a former special agent from Immigrations and Customs Enforcement out of Greenville, South Carolina. Jamie, welcome to the show. I'm sorry, Jamie, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you there. Just missed a button. So
what's up, Russ?
Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you again since I last spoke to you.
Exactly. It's kind of weird how things worked out.
It is. How long after I saw you did you get involved with LEAP?
I actually, when I met you, I was part of LEAP. I was a member, but I didn't know about their speakers bureau. After that rally, I came home and I kind of researched that, and Shalene at LEAP has been a good help with me, so now I'm on board as a speaker.
Excellent. Yeah, Shalene Title, she does all of the booking for this segment on the show, and we appreciate the work she's doing there. So have you been out in public now on behalf of LEAP? Have you done some events?
Not yet. I wrote an article that came out today on Alternate. It's something I've been working on for a while, so that was out today, and I think Shalene's working on some speeches at College of Charleston here in South Carolina where I live.
Okay, so alternate.org for those folks that don't know. I want to talk about your experience as a special agent for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Of course, that's involved with not just drug smuggling, but also human trafficking, money laundering. As far as this war on drugs goes, to what great extremes have you seen both the smugglers and law enforcement go to in this war that just like blew your mind, that you're like, I can't believe we're going to this extent?
Right. For me, I started as a uniformed inspector at a seaport. So I was kind of dealing with a lot of cocaine coming up from South America. Took a while. My main goal was to become a special agent. It's one of the most competitive jobs in law enforcement.
Yes.
I finally got that. I worked in Baltimore in a human trafficking group, so it was a lot of immigration. I was one of about 200 agents that volunteered to go to Laredo, Texas, and it was mainly there, where I saw just the sheer amount of marijuana that comes across that river down there, and it just fuels the bloodshed down there, and it's mostly marijuana. And I've always been kind of anti-prohibition, I guess. Sometimes I question why I went to law enforcement to begin with, considering, it's a war that can't be won.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to marijuana, and that's my belief, my particular belief. So to see the sheer volume that's causing down there was,
and you're talking about seeing things like elaborately constructed tunnels, all sorts of tricks they use to smuggle both people and drugs across the border. I mean, the kind of ingenuity that they come up with. So tell us some of the things you saw.
Yeah, where I was in Laredo, Texas, which is in southeast Texas. In the article that I wrote, I discussed the tunnels a little bit. That's more on the western coast, the Pacific side, because we had the Rio Grande borders Mexico, where I was in Laredo.
Okay.
But it's that port of entry is one of the busiest, if not the busiest, commercial, points of entry from Mexico, mostly truck trade. So you would see, tractor trailers just loaded to the gills with marijuana. Not to mention it coming over on rafts. It's just insane. That region is out of control.
Yeah, and of course we've reported many times. I think the most recent estimate that I've heard is somewhere along the lines of 47,000 deaths in Mexico since Calderon increased sent the federal police forces there to start cracking down on these smugglers who then just find different routes, different ways. They'll always find a way to make it happen. I'm reading your LEAP bio here, and you make a point of how the drug smugglers are very well aware of our statutory limits and our sentencing guidelines. Explain how that affects their trade.
That mostly comes into play when we're dealing with illegal aliens down there. A lot of undocumented people, they'll stay below those thresholds, so they won't be charged at the federal level. They'll go into county or local, facilities, and then they'll be deported. It's a consistent cycle that goes round and round where, they might do some time, but for the most part, a lot of those people that are legal, it's just pure turnover. As long as they stay under the thresholds and the marijuana thresholds, I can't quote you exactly right now, but they're very high. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of pounds.
Yeah. We're speaking with Jamie Haase, who's a former special agent with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement out of Greenville, South Carolina. He's one of many speakers for law enforcement against prohibition. Check it out at leap.cc, and you can find out how to book speakers like Jamie for your local event to explain to people why we need to end drug prohibition. Now, Jamie, one of the pushback points that I hear from people who want to keep drug prohibition in place is that, well, these guys are criminals. These Mexican gangsters, these cartels, they're criminals, and they'll just turn to other drugs. They'll turn to other crimes if we legalize marijuana. It won't really hurt them that much. In your experience, does that ring true?
That's a good argument, and actually I've been working on another piece that should be coming out hopefully soon. Tom Angel over at Leap's helping me with this one. Yeah, but if we legalize marijuana alone, that would free up so much time of the Mexican law enforcement, interdiction efforts, that they could go over the, people who are doing oil theft, like the Zetas and all these other things, that extortion, kidnapping. If we could just take marijuana out of the equation, we would free up so much time of Mexican law enforcement. Number two, point that I would make is that I would guarantee, probably for the majority of those people, that it is narcotic smuggling that brought them into criminal enterprising to begin with. So, it's not, they didn't go in there to start, extorting and kidnapping,
right,
and stealing oil and stuff like that. They started with smuggling drugs and led into other things.
I wonder also if, America legalizes cannabis, and if we were to also allow the importation of cannabis, that it couldn't be something that becomes a legitimate part of the Mexican economy, and perhaps create enough jobs, or at least some jobs, to do something about our immigration problems that we have. I mean, isn't the economy down in Mexico another part of this problem?
Yes, it sure is. The economy down there is horrible, and I've often thought about that too. Of course, if we ever legalize marijuana here, you'd have the California people, they'd be up in roar if we were bringing it in from Mexico. But,
that's true. I could see some Southern Oregonians that would complain too.
Yeah, no, I think that would definitely play a part. I read these blogs, and a lot of times they talk about Mexican weed and, how it's no good. And to some marijuana connoisseurs, maybe that's true. But over here on the Southeast, that's they're buying in mass volume. People drive Hondas, not Ferraris. So that's kind of where the deal is. So Mexicans know more than anybody else how to mass produce that stuff. So I can see it playing a part in their economy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jamie, this is interesting stuff. And for the people who want to get that alternate piece, what's the title of it so they can Google it if they want to find it?
It's go to alternate, and it's under the drugs tab at the top. And they changed the title on me a little bit, but it's 50,000 something dead in Mexico. Can legal pot save lives, or something like that? I mean, it's pretty. I just got home off of work, so it got published today. So I'm kind of excited about it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, so I've been working on it for a minute, so I haven't really got to analyze it yet. But they can definitely find it on Alternate. Go to the drug link, and it should be the first article on there.
Okay.
Or they could go to Leap. The Facebook page on Leap, it's on there too.
Okay. And Jamie, one other thing I want to get to you. We've reported on a tragic story that happened in Detroit of a young woman who was killed when she was busted with weed. They threaten her with prison. They say you can get out of it if you become a confidential informant. She goes on a deal that then the dealer later on turns out to, torture her, kill her, and set her on fire. It reminded us of the Rachel Hoffman case as well down in Florida. And so I'm wondering, from the law enforcement perspective, and we know a lot of how the drug war brings out the evil in the cartels and such. But in your experience, the law enforcement side of it, have you seen the corruption that has happened in this drug war?
Not so much that. That's a local issue. So she's a U.S. citizen. I've dealt with a lot of the illegal side, but for law enforcement to make big cases, in big drug cases, they need informants. And sadly, when you're talking about people who are just marijuana smokers and they're getting turned to make deals with gun-toting thugs.
Yeah.
It's messed up, but sometimes that's the only route law enforcement can make to make a case. So I'm totally against something like that. A lot of law enforcement has statistics. You got to have stats and produce. And that's where a lot of this type of stuff comes in.
Right. And plus, we get law enforcement getting subsidized by the federal government to go after drug crimes, not necessarily rapists and murderers and arsonists, but for drug crimes, they get money from the feds. So there's that incentive that's a part of it.
Exactly. Definitely.
All right. Well, Jamie, thank you so much. I have to wrap things up right now, but great job and keep on doing it. We'll look for more articles of yours out on Alternet.
All right. Thank you, Russ. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Coming up next, we're going to show that clip from The View and then time for a radical rant. We're back after this.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Sergeant Craig Simpson. There are other tests which officers can perform that may help them to make this determination. Tests such as one called lack of convergence, which looks to see whether or not a person is able to cross their eyes. Marijuana is a drug that prevents a person from being able to cross their eyes. Interestingly, it is the only drug category that doesn't allow a person to cross their eyes and also does not allow the person to exhibit a jerkiness of their eye. So it's a unique drug in that sense that is the only one to provide that influence.
It's tough talking to kids about marijuana, especially if you might be a parent who dabbled a time or two in your youth. So to help you out, get your copy of Dr. Mitch Earlywine's latest book, A Parent's Guide to Marijuana. Dr. Earlywine is an associate professor of psychology at the State University of New York at Albany and an expert on the studies concerning marijuana, its effect on health and society, and the methodology behind the statistics. He is a frequent guest here on our daily audio stash. Dr. Earlywine lays it all out without the propaganda and scare tactics that parents know won't work with teenagers. He presents a rational understanding of cannabis, what it is and what it isn't, and why kids shouldn't be using marijuana. You can order today through Amazon.com or check our links at our blog, stash.normal.org. Weed.
That's Hooey Valley, hooey-ha.
Weed.
All right, just wanted to come out of that because we got a little talk. Oh, wait a minute now. We're not going there yet. Everything's out of control here. We've gone all wacky. Okay. We're back. Everything's calm. Hey, Radical Russ back here. We've got some Hollywood stuff to bring to you. We've got a clip here from The View. Yeah, not time for a radical rant quite yet. Let me go to this picture-in-picture. The View was on today, and Heather Donahue, who was a guest on a different View on our network, she is hawking her book, Grow Girl, which describes how she went from being on the Blair Witch Project to being a medical marijuana farmer. So let me make sure everything's up as far as the audio goes, and we'll play this clip from ABC's The View.
Is a terrifying movie made for just $30,000 that grossed, get this, $250 million and changed horror movies forever. And Heather Donahue starred as a terrified filmmaker trying to escape the curse of the Blair Witch. Woo, take a look.
I love you, Mom. And Dad. I'm so sorry. I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them. I'm gonna die out here.
Here to tell us where she is now, please welcome Heather Donahue.
I have no one to blame but myself for that. I shot that, I improvised it, that is all my fault.
No, a lot of people don't know this, though. You're 24 at the time, right?
Yes, yeah.
So this was all improv?
Yeah.
And you guys were actually not only in it, the three of you, but you actually shot the whole thing yourselves.
We did.
How did this all come about?
We were very busy while the directors were having chimichangas at Chi-Chi's. It was great.
You were, but I mean, everyone was really affected by this film, and it did change the landscape of horror from that point on. $248 million. Did you see A bunch of that?
Define a bunch.
Like a good bunch.
Well, you
like
were
a
salaried
million
in
in the first place, right? They gave you a salary.
Well, at the time I was a temp, and it was a non-union job because I got out of backstage. So they basically, I think it was like $1,000 for the actual shooting, like basically to cover what I was missing as a temp.
Right. Yeah.
And then they did take care of us later. They, you know, it was fine.
I made not as much as they did.
Not as much as they, you know, but
Now,
I made a few bucks.
It's so funny going from the Blair Witch Project to your book Grow Girl. Now, in Grow Girl, you talk about after so many years of trying to make it in Hollywood, you couldn't land a job. So what did you do? You packed up all your belongings and you just lit them, you torched them, and then you ended up in some place where you started growing marijuana. You in a small town growing marijuana. What happened?
Medical.
Well, you know, medical. Thank you.
It wasn't that she was, because that would have been illegal.
Yes, exactly.
She was growing medical marijuana.
Medical marijuana.
Well, you know, I think I was doing. I was on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I did get some jobs, but I think because the Blair Witch loomed so large that none of those looked like anything in comparison, right? And then by the end of like 7 years into it, I was not getting to put things into the world that I was very proud of, you know, like the monster movie that I shot in Bulgaria that was really fun, mind you. I love Sofia. It's great town. But the products themselves were not things that I was really excited about. And I have this long meditation practice that talks about right livelihood, and it just did not feel like right livelihood to me anymore.
But
you truly felt a calling.
A pot wife. What's a pot wife?
Oh, no, now a pot wife is like a Beverly Hills trophy wife with more body hair. I was not a pot wife. I was a grow girl, and there's a very important difference.
Very nurturing experiences you describe in the book. Like, there is a sort of true connection, and you did feel like a real purpose in what you were doing. Can you tell us about that?
It's really a farming job. You know, I would cut my girls, and then I would clone them, stick them into little plugs.
That's what they call the plant, right?
Right. All the marijuana plants that you smoke are female, because that's why you don't have any seeds in your top-grade marijuana, because it's sinsemilla. Everybody, sinsemilla.
Okay, now I gotta ask, what in the world, what did your parents think when you told them you were growing marijuana? Go medical?
My poor parents, honestly. My brother always jokes that if we were serial killers, my mom would just brag about how clean we left the crime scene. So,
she's supportive.
So my parents are just insanely supportive. They've always been like.
So this is not, it's medical marijuana, so it's not illegal.
Well, it's federally illegal.
It's federally illegal.
Which is sort of the problem, which is sort of why I had to think to myself, do I write this book or do I not write this book? But, you know, I think about how much prohibition has really torn families apart, and I think somebody needs to start talking about this sensibly. And I think,
is it dangerous?
Well, I mean, it's a cash crop, so you're in danger of getting robbed. You're in danger of the DEA having a problem with it, and
it's legal in California.
But it's legal in California,
you know,
exactly.
You carry a card.
I'm a card-carrying medical marijuana patient, which means that even with just that card, I can grow 6 mature, 12 immature plants
for herself.
Just even for myself.
This is the only state that has medical marijuana.
No, there's. I think
New Jersey,
16 states now, and there's more. There's more on the ballot this year. Yeah, Jersey has it.
Jersey, you're not doing this anymore. We have to go quickly. But what are you doing now? Just so we know.
Now I'm writing. Yeah. yes, I'm working on another book.
From to writing. Yes. Thank you for sharing your book with us. Our thanks to Heather Donahue. Guess what? Members of our studio audience.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. Radical Rant.
All right, folks, I got to follow up on a story that we did just this week about the California man set to be extradited to Texas to face marijuana charges. Now, in this story, we reported the man's using cannabis for medical purposes with his doctor's recommendation, all under legal California law, Prop 215. But he visited Texas and took with him a quarter ounce of hash. Now, this is the allegedly a quarter ounce of hash and a quarter ounce of marijuana, half ounce of hashish. And we reported that the man is now facing 5 to 99 years in a Texas prison. Now, this led one of our concerned readers to look up the NORML page for state laws in Texas. And by the way, our new website, the way it's redesigned, makes it really easy to find these kind of things. If you want to find your state laws, just go to normal.org/laws/ and then put in your 2-letter state abbreviation. So normal.org/laws/TX will get you the Texas state laws. Also works that way for chapters. Want to find a Texas chapter? NORML.org/chapters/TX, and you will find your Texas chapters. But they brought up the page there, which breaks down what the laws are, and let me read them to you. For possession, of course, there's different laws for possession versus sale. And for possession of 2 ounces or less, it's a Class B misdemeanor with 180 days incarceration, $2,000 fine. Now, understand, those are like the basics, like the starting points. There's all sort of mitigating and extenuating factors that can move it one way or the other, but that's your baseline, right? Class B misdemeanor, 180 days, $2,000 fine. Now, that's where the reader is kind of confused, because you say, well, the guy had 1/4 ounce of marijuana, 1/2 ounce of hash. That's like what? 3/4 of an ounce of cannabis products. So what's the deal? 2 ounces or less should be a misdemeanor. In fact, you don't get to the 5 to 99 years part until you're over 2,000 pounds of marijuana in Texas. A ton. You have to have a ton of marijuana in Texas if you're going to get that felony. And the felony is one that could have a 5 to 99 years incarceration and $50,000 fine. Now, another thought might be, well, possession with intent to deliver, a sales type of charge. Could he get busted with that? Well, if you look those up, those also, if you have a sale of a 1/4 ounce to 5 pounds, it's a state jail felony with 180 days, 2 years, and a $10,000 fine. And he had 3/4 of an ounce of cannabis products, so shouldn't have fit there, even if they're thinking he's going to sell. I mean, you don't get that 5 to 99 years with sales until you've sold 50 pounds or more. 50 pounds to a ton in Texas, felony of the first degree, 5 to 99 years, $10,000 fine. So, our reader asks, Texas is saying that you can sell a ton, literally, and get just as much jail time as someone with a 1/4 ounce of weed and a 1/2 ounce of hash? I'm confused. Yeah, well, actually, you could just sell 50 pounds to get that 5 to 99. But, I get your point, right? Up to a ton of weed. And this guy's going to get the same punishment as if he had, for having a 1/4 ounce of weed, 1/2 ounce of hash. Well, the problem is this. In Texas, hash ain't marijuana. Now, our own John Lucy, about 4 years ago, reviewed some state hash laws, and it's up on the web, and I've got a link to it. Don't cite it as absolute accuracy, because in 4 years, a lot of laws change. For example, he has down there Oklahoma being the same, marijuana is the same as hash, and we all know that changed this last year here with Oklahoma coming up with a life imprisonment for the manufacture of hashish. But John Lucy reviewed some of these, and so what I have, I'm going to use that as a baseline to start with, and again, disclaimer, it may not be entirely accurate anymore. But back then, it appears that there are just 22 states and the District of Columbia that treat hash the same way as they treat marijuana. Texas is not one of them. Hashish is a felony under Texas Health and Safety Code 481.103 and Section 481.116, as it is in most states that have separate definitions for hashish. Now, let me break this down for you. The 481.103 describes what are called penalty group 2 substances. Like Texas, takes the substances and they break them down, like schedules kind of. This substance gets this much punishment, this substance gets this much punishment, and so on. So the penalty group 2 include tetrahydrocannabinols other than marijuana and synthetic equivalents of the substances contained in the plant, like your K2, your spice, right? Or in the resinous extractives of cannabis or synthetic substances, derivatives, and their isomers with similar chemical structure and pharmacological activity, such as, and then there's a whole bunch of chemistry names. So basically they're saying anything that's cannabinoid that's not plant pot is not pot. Now, in 481.116, they describe the punishments for those penalty group 2 substances. Part A, except as authorized by this chapter, a person commits an offense if the person knowingly or intentionally possesses a controlled substance listed in penalty group 2, unless they have it from a prescription or a practitioner, et cetera, et cetera. Then B talks about the weights less than a gram. C talks about the weights 1 gram to 4 grams. And D here, an offense under subsection A is a felony of the second degree if the amount of the controlled substance possessed is, by aggregate weight, including adulterants or dilutants, 4 grams or more, but less than 400 grams. All right, and then the subsection E brings up more. If you have more than 400 grams, it's a term of life or a term of not more than 99 years or less than 5 years, and a fine of $50,000. Okay, so if we assume this guy, was alleged to have a half ounce, that's 14 grams-ish, then he'd be under subsection D, not E. He wouldn't be in that 5 to 99. He'd be in this section D area, whatever its punishment would be. So, but maybe there might be a circumstance that causes that to move farther on the punishment. But anyway, what I can find as far as, again, this section D, felony of the second degree, 4 grams to 400 grams of hash, what I can find for their Texas sentencing guidelines for this second degree felony would be 2 to 20 years in prison and possible fine not to exceed $10,000 for a half ounce of hash. That's right, second degree felony, 2 to 20 in a Texas prison, $10,000 fine. Now, that second degree felony, in case you're wondering just how bad a criminal you are if you're bringing that much hash into Texas, you want to know how evil Texas considers you to be, that is the same baseline penalty, second degree felony, as aggravated assault, arson, bigamy, bribery, evading arrest and death of another occurs, like you're speeding away from a traffic ticket and you hit someone and kill them, right? Improper relationship between an educator and student, indecent contact with a child, intoxication manslaughter, online solicitation of a minor under 14, possession of 50 to 2,000 pounds of marijuana, robbery, sexual assault, stalking, second offense, trafficking of persons. So you got that? 4 grams of hash equals 50 pounds of pot in Texas. You will be punished as severely for holding a little over an 1/8 ounce of hash as if you had killed a person while drunk. You will do the same time as a teacher who seduces a student or a perv who solicits little kids online or touches them inappropriately. You are as reprehensible as the coyotes trafficking immigrants across the border, a repeat stalker and date rapist, a thief, a polygamist, or an arsonist. Now, another thing to consider is to reread that part that I kind of went over in that law. If the amount of the controlled substance possessed is by aggregate weight, including adulterants or dilutants part, yeah, that's some nice legalese. What that means, by aggregated weight, they mean they're weighing the whole thing, not just the weight of the cannabinoids. So, if you've made marijuana brownies, for instance, you're not facing charges for the 1/4 ounce of pot you put in them. You're facing charges for the 12 ounces of a penalty group 2 substance. And God forbid you put hash in those brownies or cookies, because then, or if you make a hash oil or a tincture, you will not be judged on how much of the cannabis you put in the tincture. You're judged by the whole volume of the liquid that it's sitting in. You'll be facing charges for the penalty group 2 substance in Texas. Now, as far as the states that treat marijuana the same, hashish is the same as marijuana, the link is up at our blog at stash.normal.org. You can find out more about that. And the list I have originally, and this may have changed, was Alaska, Arizona, Connecticut, Delaware, D.C., Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Missouri, North Dakota, Rhode Island, Utah, Vermont, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming. So those treat them the same, but again, don't take our word for it. Get your own legal counsel. Check out your state laws. If you are a person who is a hash consumer or a hash producer in your state, make sure you know what you're dealing with. Most states do not treat hash the same way they treat marijuana. They treat hash as if it's a really different thing. Now, you and I and science knows that hashish is just cannabis. It is just the same cannabis that we're smoking. It's just been distilled. It is the sipping whiskey, if you will, of cannabis products, but it cannot cause overdose. It is non-toxic. It is not something that is going to cause you to become addicted. It's got the same properties of cannabis, just in a nice concentrated form. But remember, the law looks at that thing differently, and you need to know what the law is. So get involved and get informed. Check out our website at NORML.org, where you can learn all about this. Our state laws guide is up there with DUID and medical marijuana information, as well as industrial hemp. Check it out at NORML.org. That's all the time we've got today for our podcast. Thanks for joining us, those of you listening on the recorded version on your iPods, iPads, Androids. You can listen to us live with the Ustream app. Just go to live.normal.org and download from the Android market or the iPhone store the Ustream app, and listen to us live on your commute. Great way to get your information. For Wiz Khalifa and Cannabis Carrie and Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it on one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.